All right, let's just dive right into this. Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're going to look at how changing the factory settings on your financial life can literally buy back an entire decade of your future. Seriously, the system around us, it's completely set up by default to benefit the big institutions. But everything we're going to cover today is actually sitting right in plain sight on government websites written directly into the tax code. As your financial coach today, my absolute main goal is to guide you through some incredibly simple optimizations. I'm going to show you how flipping just 4 simple, totally free switches can radically change your trajectory. And the best part, you don't even have to aggressively slash your current standard of living to do it.
So to start us off, we really have to address the core engine of everything we're talking about today. How long do you really have to work before you can finally stop? Now, you might think the answer depends entirely on how much money you earn, right? But I'm here to tell you that is completely the wrong question to be asking. Honestly, it doesn't matter if you make $50,000 or $500,000. If you spend absolutely everything you make and you let lifestyle creep just absorb every single raise and bonus, well, you're going to work until your body literally files a formal complaint. The only number that actually dictates your freedom is your savings rate.
And to understand why it's so incredibly hard for most of us to naturally increase that savings rate, we got to look at the defaults the financial system sets up for us. $14. Seriously? This is the tiny, honestly kind of insulting amount of interest one saver recently earned on a $10,000 balance sitting in a standard big bank checking or savings account for an entire year. $14 for letting a bank hold on to 10 grand.
Meanwhile, that exact same bank made $92.6 billion in a single recent year off the massive gap between what it pays everyday savers like you and me and what it charges borrowers for things like mortgages and loans. The financial system isn't fundamentally broken, guys. It is just working exactly as it was designed to. The default path points the utility of your money directly toward their profit margins, not your early retirement. But you know what? We are going to change that dynamic right now.
Because pushing back against those default settings brilliantly illustrates the real engine of early retirement. When we look at standard math, assuming average historical market returns, a standard 10% savings rate means you're going to be working for about 51 years. You are heavily dependent on your active income. But if you push your savings rate from 10% to 25%, it doesn't just shave off a couple of years. It literally deletes 19 years of your working life. Think about that. That is 19 years of alarm clocks, awful morning commutes, and stressful performance reviews just completely gone. This is the absolute magic of compounding when you reduce your dependency on your salary. And the craziest part of the whole shebang, your salary doesn't even have to change to make this happen. You simply have to optimize exactly where your money goes.
All right, let's see how this builds with our very first practical step. Switch number 1, the emergency fund. It is time to stop leaving your money at the big banks.
Right now, massive traditional banks are paying a microscopic 0.01% on standard savings accounts. It's practically zero. But by simply moving your cash to an FDIC-insured high-yield savings account paying around 4%, you turn $1 of interest into $400 a year on a $10,000 balance. And it carries the exact same government insurance. This little 10-minute paperwork switch won't retire you early on its own for sure, but it is the critical first step in taking back control. It basically stops your natural inertia from being a reliable line item on a commercial bank's quarterly earnings report. Moving this money builds momentum and fundamentally changes the default from your money working for them to your money working for you.
Okay, moving right along, let's tackle the second switch, the 401k match. This is all about capturing the highest guaranteed return on the planet.
It's wild, but right now, 1 in 4 workers walks right past an average of over $1,300 of free employer money every single year. I mean, it is effectively evaporating wealth. If your employer offers a common match, let's say 50 cents on the dollar up to 6% of your salary, claiming that match provides a guaranteed 50% instant return before the stock market even opens for the day. To put that into perspective for you, historical stock market returns average around 7 to 10%. Literally, no hedge fund manager on earth can deliver a guaranteed 50% return. It takes just one simple form in your HR benefits portal to instantly give yourself a raise and drastically bump up that critical savings rate we talked about, all without changing a single thing about your daily budget.
Now, switch number 3 is where we really start stealing back actual years of your life. The invisible fee. We seriously need to stop funding someone else's yacht. Because the math here is genuinely brutal. Imagine you invest $100,000 for 30 years in a low-cost, total market index fund, charging a tiny 0.1% fee. You'd end up with about $574,000. Not bad, but if that exact same money is sitting in an actively managed mutual fund charging a 2% fee, you end up with just $334,000. Yeah, that invisible fee quietly ate nearly $250,000 of your returns. And why does this happen? Well, because actively managed funds have huge overhead costs, fancy, expensive offices, and over a 30-year horizon, virtually none of them can consistently beat a simple, unmanaged index fund. Industry insiders know that every 1% in fees costs you roughly 5 to 7 years of your working life. The fix here is super simple. Just move your balance into those low-cost index funds.
All right, let's move on to Switch 4, the HSA cheat code. This is secretly the most powerful retirement account in America.
Now, I know health savings account sounds incredibly boring, but stay with me here because it is the absolute closest thing the U.S. tax code has to a legal loophole. Only about 20% of the people who actually have access to this account use it correctly. Most folks treat it like a prepaid medical debit card, Money goes in, and then it immediately comes right back out for co-pays or prescriptions. But the real trick, the cheat code, is to treat it as a long-term investment vehicle. You invest the balance into index funds, you pay today's minor medical bills out of pocket from your regular checking account, and you save those receipts in a digital folder so you can reimburse yourself decades later.
Literally no other account in existence gives you this triple tax advantage. Check this out. Your contributions are tax-deductible going in, the investments grow completely tax-free over the years, and the money comes out tax-free as long as it's for medical expenses. Plus, as an awesome bonus, if you make those contributions directly through your payroll, it entirely skips the 7.65% FICA tax. Healthcare is a massive, highly inflationary expense for early retirees, right? So over 30 years, a maxed-out family HSA could compound into roughly $826,000 of fully tax-free money just to cover those inevitable medical costs.
Let's bring this down to earth. Meet the Parkers. We're going to apply all this math to a middle-income family.
As your coach, I don't want to just give you theory. So let's assume the Parkers make the exact U.S. median combined household income of about $83,730. Now, version A of the Parkers, they stick to the factory defaults. They get a standard 9% savings rate and end up retiring around age 61. But version B of the Parkers, they change literally zero spending habits. They don't cut out their morning lattes, they don't cancel their streaming services, they simply capture the full employer match, dodge those FICA taxes by utilizing the HSA, and slash their investment fees by moving to index funds. Because of these purely structural optimizations, their effective savings rate rockets up to 32%. So version B buys back 6 to 7 years of their life. They are retiring at 54, trading those stressful Monday morning stand-ups for totally free wide-open Tuesdays. How amazing is that?
Which brings us to a very crucial question: bridging the gap. How do you access your money before age 59 and a half?
Now, I know exactly what you're thinking. If you actually do retire at 54, like version B of the Parkers, how do you actually touch that 401k money without suffering a massive 10% early withdrawal penalty from the IRS? Because normally the rules say you can't touch it until age 59 and a half. Well, the solution is a perfectly legal procedure the early retirement community has known about for years, and it's called the Roth Conversion Ladder. Here is exactly how it works, step by step. Step 1. You stop working, so your earned income completely plummets. Because you have no salary, you're placed in the lowest possible tax brackets. Step 2. You convert exactly 1 year's worth of living expenses from your traditional IRA over to a Roth IRA, and you pay very little tax because your income is so remarkably low. And Step 3. IRS rules state that after a 5-year waiting period, that specific converted money can be withdrawn completely penalty-free and tax-free at any age. You just keep the ladder rolling every single year.
And hey, if the ladder strategy doesn't perfectly fit your situation, no problem at all. The Internal Revenue Code has publicly printed backup doors designed explicitly to give you flexibility. For example, Rule 72T lets you take penalty-free withdrawals at any age whatsoever, provided you commit to taking substantially equal periodic payments for at least 5 years. Then, there's the Rule of 55, which grants penalty-free access to your current employer's 401k if you leave your job at age 55 or later. I want to be super clear here. These are not shady loopholes or weird gray areas. They are explicitly public rules designed to help you safely bridge the gap between early retirement and traditional retirement age. Your money is never truly locked away from you.
So let's talk about this system's silence and exactly why you probably haven't been told this before.
You might be wondering, if all of this is true, why haven't I heard about it from my bank? Well, it's not some grand conspiracy with guys in suits shredding documents in back rooms. The system's silence exists simply because the default path, the one you are very likely on right now, and the most profitable path for financial institutions, well, they are the exact same path. They simply make way more money when you stay on the factory settings. Now, as your coach, I definitely must remind you to always build a margin of safety into your planning. Those 7% market returns we talked about, They're historical averages, not a guaranteed monthly subscription service. It is absolutely crucial to have a cash buffer. And look, if you have a tight budget and you can't max out an HSA right now, that is completely fine. Start small. Flipping just the first 3 free switches, moving your savings, getting your employer match, and lowering your investment fees will absolutely still rebuild years of your life.
There's this quote that perfectly sums up everything we've talked about today. The financial industry's entire business model is the assumption that you won't do boring paperwork tonight. I mean, they literally bank on your exhaustion. They rely on the fact that after a long, hard day of work, you don't want to log into a portal and fill out forms. Well, it is time for us to become the rounding error in their corporate forecast. Because absolutely nobody is going to hand you a trophy for working 7 extra years just to passively fund a bank's record-breaking quarter. It's just not going to happen.
So, I want to leave you at this final, really provocative thought. Which version of your future self are you going to choose to fund tonight? The gap between retiring at 64 and retiring at 54, it isn't about having incredible talent, making some massive salary, or encountering extreme luck. It really isn't. It is simply about spending 1 hour of your life checking a few boxes, changing a few default settings, and making the math work for you instead of them. So go ahead, log in, flip those switches, and take back your decade. You've got this.